The mic on fire, Queens repping hard under nighttime shire. 7 train rumbles, rides through the dark to the field where the fans ignite their spark. Orange and blue forever in our veins. Postgame vibes running like city trains. Queens pride loud, never feeling tame. After the game, things ain't the same.
Mets fans, welcome to a Mets series recap show on our channels and on X. Mets fans, you're enjoying this weekend? Was it weekend? Yeah, weekend. Nice sweep of the Rockies, 5-2 road trip. Everything we mostly asked for, we got in this road trip. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I know it's a little bit late. We didn't really exactly do a post game. This is a post game of sorts, but you know what? We are spamming the W's because guess what? It's a series sweep. Exactly what the Mets needed, exactly what we expected. It's a series sweep. I love it. And it was dominant. It was in dominant fashion. So I love it, Rob. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, it was out. Look, the last 2 games, not only did they blow out the team and they basically coast to a victory, they saved the bullpen basically in 2 straight days. You got an off day tomorrow going into the homestand for 6 games against the Nationals and the Rays. I mean, it's not even just about the wins. It's about what they did to get those wins and how they got there. And that's the important part right there, because we're going into a homestand with a very rested bullpen, Chris.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. I think the starting pitching really did its job, of course, and then also in parallel to that, the offense over the last 2 nights, outside of that 4-2 victory in the first game, really did their job. And I think that it just takes that much pressure off of the starting rotation. Clay Holmes and Tyler McGill, etc. When you do your job, and Kodai Senga could not say the same thing in that first game because he was kind of pitching with a deficit for most of his start, to be honest with you, until the offense got things going in the 7th inning. But yeah, it's really huge when the offense does its thing because it takes the pressure off of the rotation. The rotation is able to go out there and go and do their thing, and they're able to take pressure by process of elimination at that point against the bullpen. And the bullpen really didn't have much work to do in the latter 2 games of this series. They're well rested, and they are ready to go in the next series against the Nationals. So it was really awesome to see. I think that this was a much needed sweep. And I think that this was a series where we all came in and we were like, all right, we didn't get sweeps against the Pirates, right? In that 3rd game, it was a little bit of a letdown against a lesser team. Same thing with the White Sox, but they took care of business at home against the Rockies. Obviously, they came out to the West Coast. The Dodgers series was what it was. It was a series split. I think that we could all say that it could have been a series sweep in 4 games against the Dodgers if they didn't let 2 of those games go. But how do you bounce back? How do you go ahead and, knowing you're the superior team and facing an inferior team like the Rockies, not let that get to you and get the job done? The game 1 was a nail biter, to be honest with you, and it took some late game heroics by Francisco Lindor to come off the bench and give him the go ahead hit for the 2 RBIs to make it 4-2. But they made sure that nothing was left on the table in the middle game and in this game, and it was awesome to see. I mean, it was a total collective performance, and Juan Soto getting on base, what was it, 6 times today? Goodness, Juan Soto had himself a hell of a series. I love it. McNeil, 2 home run performance today for McNeil. The ball was flying in Colorado, as you would expect. I love it.
Yeah, and no lead safe, and I do apologize for the typo of the score. It was 13-5. I mean, not much of a difference. It was a blowout, so that's obvious. But yeah, this was a situation where we talked about dominating this series, right? Obviously, game 1 was a little, little nail biter, but they dominated this series when they needed to, and that's exactly what they did. What is interesting, all the home runs that this team hit in this series, McNeil has 3 home runs in 2 days. Pete Alonso hits 2 home runs. McNeil has 2 home runs. Who else hit home runs today? Everybody freaking hit home runs today. Yeah, just
Alvy had a good shot
like everybody seemed like
straight
they hit a
center
home
field.
run today. Yeah. So overall, it's just a nice way to see guys getting going. Hopefully Alvarez gets going because that was a moonshot to center field. That was a shot. Jeff McNeil is, we talked about it. How much we wanted Jeff McNeil to come back because Acuna wasn't playing well, Beatty wasn't playing well, and now that Beatty's playing better, Beatty hit a home run as well. Beatty, started to take off a little bit. Acuna kind of been, helping his team in other ways other than with the bat. And it's like, well, look what Jeff McNeil is doing quietly. Jeff McNeil is batting over 260 now. 5 home runs, if I'm not mistaken. And he just looks like a professional hitter. And, batting 5th in the lineup, it's amazing what's going on. Ronnie Mauricio had a couple of hits today as well. It's just all looking like it's coming together slowly but surely. And if they start to get going, Chris, especially offensively, they're already hard to beat. They will be almost impossible to beat going forward. And I know it's only game 66 of the season. There's a lot of games to go. Less than 90 something games to go. Long way to go here, but it's a great sign from the Mets.
It's a really good sign. Especially when you look at some of the things that are happening around the league, as it relates to the NL East. The Phillies had a little bit of a hard time against the Pirates. The Braves had a little bit of a hard time against the Giants, and it's really about stacking series wins, right? I mean, we knew that this was supposed to be a sweep, and that's exactly what it was. But it's about stacking series wins at the end of the day. The Mets have been able to do a really good job. And, whether it's a performance like yesterday and today, where it's a blowout at this point, or winning close ball games when it comes down to it, the Mets are one of the better teams in this league. I don't have the statistics pulled up right in front of me to support this, but I feel like, in close games, we've seen a lot of close games go in the other team's favor, but also a lot of close games going in the Mets' favor as well, and them being able to go ahead and close out the ball game. And it's really good to see, because I feel like, especially as of recent, when it's a close ball game, the Mets can rely more so on their offense, and they can let the pitching do the rest of it. Whereas in the beginning of the season, it was like, all right, the Mets probably had a lead at that point, thanks to, I guess, an early run or two from the offense, and then the rotation, the bullpen was able to get the job done late. But I think that the offense is really starting to come around in all stages of the game at this point. Again, it's against the Rockies. I understand that. I know a lot of people are going to say that as well. It's against the Rockies. Let's see how they do against the Nationals. Let's see how they do against the Rays, the Braves, the Phillies, etc. Again, as I said, going into the Dodgers series, I'm just noticing really good things about this offense and them trying to turn things around, right? And them doing things on an individual basis that is good, that will lead into team success. And we've noticed that by the total runs scored over the past, let's say 5-6 games, right? Maybe even 7 games going back to the beginning of the Dodgers series. So it's really good to see. I think there's a lot of encouraging signs from this Mets team, and the 42-24 record really just shows that, right? I mean, they're a really good team. We root for a really good team. And are they perfect? No, absolutely not, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that the Mets can do better even still, given the runners in scoring position, etc. But I'm satisfied, Rob. At this point, I'm satisfied, and I think that the win-loss record really does show that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. They got the best record in baseball against teams over 500, 20-12. That's 32 games. There's 32 games right there. That's basically, half the games they played, almost half the games they played against teams over 500, and they have 8 games over 500 with that. And it just shows exactly how they perform against the good teams, because everybody was talking about, the easy schedule in April and that's why they're winning all these games and everything like that. Like, you're not supposed to win against those teams, because if you lose against those teams, it's a problem. And that's how teams get to 95, 100 plus wins, is by beating a lot of the bad teams. And when you're beating the good teams along with dominating the bad teams, well, guess what? You're on a roll. You're on a trajectory to win 100 plus games, and that's where the Mets are right now. They're projected to win over 100 games at this pace right now, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to do that. You already got 42 wins. It's just the first week of June. It's still a lot of games to go and a lot of games to win. And we're the only team in the NL East that won today. The Phillies got swept. The Braves got swept. The Nats, I believe, lost as well, and the Marlins lost. Everybody lost. So it's just gaining games over and over. Keep it going. And hopefully, when we get to facing the Braves and the Phillies, the Braves are even further back. The Phillies are even further back because now those games, of course, they mean something because they're in your division, but it's not going to put a big dent in your lead if you continue to add on to this division lead right now. And look, the Phillies are playing terribly right now. Now, again, a week from now, they could be red hot, right? But we beat them. We swept them. The Braves we haven't faced this year yet, but they're 10 games over. They're 14 games back right now. It's kind of, it's a tough task for them. Even in 2022, they weren't this far back. They're struggling right now. Nothing's going right for them. And, the Nationals are okay team, but nothing special. So it's just the Mets. It's their opportunity to take full control. Right now, they're in control, but full control of this division. It's their division to lose at this point. It's just that simple.
It's true. It's absolutely true. And I think that, I mean, clearly you see the standings right here, the updated standings, 4.5 games back for the Phillies as well. I noticed some of these teams, right, especially the Braves and the Phillies, going back to the series that they were just playing in with the Giants and Pirates respectively for both of those teams. It's like the close games that, like, it's not like they're getting blown out, let's be honest. I mean, the Braves and the Phillies are playing like okay baseball, but they're also in close games with these teams and they're losing the close games, right? you know, they're losing these games that the Mets would win because the Mets show up in the later innings. And the big hit, right? The big out has eluded from the pitching side of things, has eluded the Phillies and the Braves so far. I mean, the Braves just literally just lost a game a couple nights ago on a wild pitch in extra innings. So it's things like that where baseball is, a game of inches, as we say, and I think that it gets just lost because, you know, 4-2 victory against the Colorado Rockies is what it is. A lot of people are like, "Oh, we shouldn't have been there in the first place against the Rockies." Like, yeah, I understand that. You know what I mean? Going 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position up until the 7th inning with Pete Alonso getting the job done is not ideal, but the Mets are still getting they're still finding a way to get things done in the later stages of the game where you look at teams around the league, especially teams in your division that are not able to do that against other respective teams, and it just makes me grateful. It makes me be grateful at this point. So, um, is there some things that the Mets can definitely shore up and clean up? And yeah, of course, always. I mean, the Mets are never going to be perfect, of course, but the way that they've been winning, you know, the the process for me, it just makes me see the offense, and I'm like, that's the one area that's been really lacking with this team.
Mhm.
I think that as a collective unit offensively, pitching aside, because the pitching has been phenomenal. I'm talking about the offense here strictly. What I've been seeing from the offense as of recently on an individual basis and on a team basis has been good, and it's been a really good sign of life, and I think that if we continue that, there's just, like, the pace is what it is. You just pointed out what the pace is, 100 plus games for this team. That's where we can be at. So, let the good times roll and continue that mentality because it seems like they're playing for each other right now, Rob. It seems
Yeah.
like this clubhouse is a cohesive unit and they're doing it. And it doesn't matter if it's Marte, right? Marte getting the start. It doesn't matter if it's whoever else. Alvarez today going and hitting a bomb to center field. when he's been struggling as of recent. Mauricio, the game before, right? Going ahead and hitting his first home run of the season. It doesn't really matter what the name is on the back. Mauricio getting off to like a what, 0 for 8 start, something like that. Like it's crazy. Like these guys seem to be locked in each and every at bat, and they're picking each other up, and I love it. It's a really good sign. I will say that it's tremendous.
Yeah, it's nice to see because people were questioning Juan Soto's not happy. There seems to be a disconnect between Juan Soto and the team. Blah blah blah, and it changed all of a sudden. All of a sudden, nobody's talking about it. The Yankees are actually worrying about them. The Yankee fans are actually worrying about themselves, and it's amazing how fast it changed. Even though we don't think there was more of an issue, I just think it was he was struggling and he felt like he wasn't helping the team, and he was pissed off about it. And when he's going, you can tell the confidence level in just him and just the team around him as well. And they basically picked him up for a long period of time, and it's about time he's starting to look like he's getting going as well. And it's it's always funny because like for years the Braves and the Phillies just dominate the division, and the Mets are kind of like the funny guys in the corner that kind of act like they're tough and that they're winners, and they're really not. But I think we broke the Braves last year. I think we broke the Phillies last year in the playoffs. Like I truly believe that. Like the Phillies, I mean, when we played them, they just looked like they were afraid to do things in that series. Like just the bad at bats that they were having, the bad runners in scoring position what they were having in that series against the Mets at home. And then the Braves, when what happened in the extra games or the last couple of games of the season just to make the playoffs. I think we broke them, to be quite honest with you. They have not been the same since. Right, the Phillies look a little off. I know they were hot during the stretch, but again, they played the Rockies and Pittsburgh Pirates during that 9-10 game stretch, and they took full advantage of it. But after that, they haven't played well, and the Braves still haven't got off their horse. Like they got back to 500, and now they're back to way under 500 again. So it's amazing to see that once you slay the dragon, like we talked about last year, Chris, during the post-game shows during that run. Once you slay the dragon, things come easier. Not easier like, hold on, we're just going to win every game. We're going to make the playoffs, win the World Series, blah, blah, blah. But like in general, we're not afraid of those teams anymore. When we used to talk about the Braves and the Phillies, we would be like, yeah, this team got our number. We can never do anything against this team. We're always losing Atlanta. Philadelphia always has our number. Now we want to play them. We're not afraid of them anymore. Now they're trying to get us, and it's a huge difference from years past.
Listen, I'm going to take it a step further and just say that again, because I feel like a lot of Mets fans get trapped into this like media narrative. It's just like, like who's talking about the Braves right now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is there like I know there's a little bit of a talking point there, but like, where's the emphasis on the Braves dropping silly games to opponents, right? The Dodgers have lost 4 of their last 6. I know that they won today, but like they just lost a series to the Cardinals and they split a series against the Mets. Like they've lost 4 of their last 6. The Phillies, the same thing. Like the media bias is only reserved for the Mets when they start losing in a short spurt, by the way, because if the Mets lose the next 4 or 6, I guarantee you there's going to be an uproar in the media and the fan base is going to eat that up. You know what I mean? Good teams are allowed to have these sort of bad stretches. And I know that we don't want to see that from the Mets, but again, like we see this from other good teams around the league where they have a little bit of a stint where it's not going for them. And so the problem is like when the Mets have that, everybody starts panicking. It's the end of the world. And so I would say from the media perspective, and I know this has nothing to do with the fan base. I know this has nothing to do with really anything at this point, right? Performance-wise. But from the media perspective, the media is looking for the Mets to lose ball games because they know that's what drives the attention. They know that's what drives the clicks. And Mets fans feed into that because they help drive those clicks. And it
Yep.
sucks to see. It sucks to see. And that's what I'll say is like the Mets are having a really good season so far, and they've had their own spurts of sloppy baseball, right? Losing baseball, where they lost the division lead a little bit for a short period of time to the Phillies. But it's like, I'm not listening to all the crap that the media is saying. I'm not. And I don't think anybody in this fan base should either. Because do we see the media saying, oh, the Dodgers just lost 4 of their last 6? No, we're not seeing any of that because it's not the Mets. It's
Yep.
not the Mets. So, I hate to say that it's like the Mets against the world type thing because that's a little bit corny. But like at the end of the day, when you look at the media and what they like to drive, it kind of is. So this team is playing good baseball. They are probably due for a bad stretch at some point. Like they will play
Sure.
bad baseball at some point. I'm fully expecting it. And we've already seen bad baseball with the runners in scoring position before, right? And that's something that they could still work on. But this team is good. Can we celebrate this team being good? You know what I mean? Can we celebrate a series sweep even if it's against the Colorado Rockies? Let's do it because 42 and 24, that's something to be celebrated, Rob. That's something to be celebrated for sure.
Yep. I mean, you're talking about the media narrative, right? When was the last time you see Frank the Tank video, him going crazy about a loss, right? Because it's non existent. He's basically, nobody even cares about him because the Mets are winning and the only content that actually drives views is his negative content. Look at Michael Kay. What was it the other day? Talking about the Met fans as fleas. Like, what are you doing here? Like, you brought up the narrative about Juan Soto. You keep on talking about Juan Soto and the Mets when the Yankees have a free ride in the American League. Like, that's the reason why the Yankee fans are so bored. The Yankee announcer and Michael Kay are so bored
Yeah.
because there's no competition in the American League besides the Tigers, who they probably won't have to worry about until the playoffs. It's a free ride, so they have nothing else to think.
And Michael K is shameless. What a shameless guy. Because then he has the nerve to do some sort of event in City Field and to this parking lot. He's going to go to the City Field parking lot after calling Mets fans fleas. He knows that the only way for him to generate even more attention is to talk about the cross rival team because he's had enough with the Yankees. You know what? He's got the attention from the Yankees. I get that. But the only way to drive more clicks and the only way to drive more attention toward his dumb ass is by talking about the New York Mets.
Yeah.
It's so shameless. It's absolutely so shameless. And that actually pissed me off to have the nerve to call Mets fans fleas and this, that, and the other on a rant. Michael K, you should be ashamed of yourself. You're
100%.
what a bum. What a bum that guy
100%.
is. What a
And,
bum.
and what makes it worse is the fact that for years, we're all Met fans here. We all understand that the Yankees were the dominant team for so long, right? It hasn't been since the 80s when the Mets ran the town, right? We understood that. Like, we it's not in our heads as much as it is in Yankee fans, as they have to bring up the 27 World Championships and all that stuff every time they get into an argument. It's the fact that when was the last time, as Met fans, have we heard the Yankee fans, while we're not playing them, constantly talk about us? Announcers for the Yankees, continue to talk about us. Like, this is the first time in a long time where they make it so obvious we live rent free in their minds that it's kind of sad at this point because, like, we have nothing to do with you. You have nothing to do with us. It doesn't affect our division. It doesn't affect anything that we're trying to do during the 162 game season, except for 6 games this year. That's it. That's all it matters. For a little bit of bragging rights. Last year there was bragging rights. The Mets swept them, right? They took 2 out of 3 against us in Yankee Stadium. But it's just amazing. Every time Juan Soto strikes out or makes a bad defensive play, or just Juan Soto. And maybe if the Mets, like when they lost that game against the Dodgers, they were all over Twitter. but now they're
That's
quiet.
what it is, Rob. That's what it is. It's not even about it. That's a great point by you because it's not even about the bragging rights of the Mets versus Yankees.
Yeah,
Michael K in particular, in this instance that we're talking about, right? Why I'm so upset about this and why Mets fans should be upset about this really is that he wants to be so right about his report, whatever it was, about Juan Soto specifically. He needs to be right about that. And so any sort of pushback against that, oh, Mets fans are fleas, this, that, and the other. It's not even about Mets versus Yankees anymore. It's about for them, I would say for them, for the Yankees, it's about being right about Juan Soto.
yeah,
That's what it's about. And so that's what I'm saying, especially as a Mets fan. Like, yeah, statistically, he's having a down year, right? At this point, right?
sure.
Statistically, not taking into account all the other intangibles that he brings. But you need to be so correct, right, about this particular report if you're Michael K. It's so sad. It's so sad.
Yeah,
It's so sad in my mind. And I think that it's absolutely shameless. So
it really
shame
is.
on Michael K. Shame on him.
Listen, what he should be talking about is that if the Yankees don't get to a World Series this year, then Aaron Judge still can't do it without Juan Soto. That's what he should be talking about, right? The Mets made a run last year to the NLCS without Juan Soto, right? Without basically any of their stars really playing well except for Lindor, right? We didn't have Juan Soto, right? Aaron Judge got piggybacked by Juan Soto. Aaron Judge couldn't do it himself. When Juan Soto basically did it himself, Aaron Judge had Giancarlo Stanton when Giancarlo Stanton was killing baseballs all over the place in the playoffs the last couple of seasons. Aaron Judge still couldn't put him over the top and bring him to the World Series. Juan Soto did that. And that's the thing that I don't think they'll ever get over, because if the Mets ever make the World Series with Juan Soto and possibly win it, pray for your Yankee fans, right? You might have to stop them, right? They might run into that little McDonald's right next to Yankee Stadium, eat the Whopper, or wait, no, that's Burger King. Sorry, eat a burger, get some fries, and jump in front of the 4 train. Like, that is how desperate they are for Juan Soto not to do well, because they know if Aaron Judge can't get to a World Series, and this is probably the worst I ever seen the American League in teams. There's one team that, you can tell me about Seattle all you want. Seattle chokes. Wait until July and August. They will choke. They always do it.
Yep.
They always do it. So don't give me Seattle, right? There's nobody in the West.
It's
There's
Detroit.
nobody.
That's
Yeah,
it.
there's nobody in the East, and there's
It's
one team in the
Detroit.
Central, and it's the Detroit Tigers. And Detroit has their number in the playoffs. I think it's 3 times they're 3-0 against them. So whatever that means, it is what it is, right? It should be the Yankees and the Tigers in the ALCS. And then, if the Yankees get to the World Series, good. Aaron Judge helped them do it. Great. But I think they're so paranoid and scared that if they don't make the World Series with minus Juan Soto and Aaron Judge still can't get them over the hump, that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of that narrative. Michael K is afraid of that narrative, because he continues to say, and look, Aaron Judge is a great player, but he's a terrible postseason player. And until he breaks that barrier down, just like A-Rod did it for the Yankees when he finally did it, if Aaron Judge doesn't do it, what is Michael K going to say then? Like, isn't the playoff all that matters to Yankee fans? Because if you're bitching and moaning and complaining and jumping for joy like you won the World Series because you beat us 2 out of 3 in a lousy series in the early part of the season, then what are you going to say then? Like, it's a narrative that I don't think they want to talk about, because if they have to talk about it, that means Aaron Judge didn't get the job done.
It's okay. They got a season of 37-year-old Paul Goldschmidt hitting 313. They got one season of that. That's their pivot. Let alone Devin Williams. Like you know what I mean? Like, that's their pivot is Paul Goldschmidt. Like, yeah, they got Max Fried, of course. Like, he's having a stellar year, but like, they've got Paul Goldschmidt, and that's what they're clinging on to. It's ridiculous. Anyways, back to the Mets. They're playing good baseball.
Yes,
They're playing good baseball. They're playing good baseball. Like, there's really nothing else that you can say.
Yeah.
This team is coming into their own. They're not even healthy yet. Like there's concerns legitimately about like some of the rehab starts and I guess the rehab I guess assignments that Manaya and Montas are going through right now, and we'll see how they fit into the equation when they're good and ready, right, to come back with who goes out of the rotation and who gets replaced. But the Mets are playing good baseball. And I'm really happy with that. I'm really happy with that. And I think that a lot of Mets fans, I hate to say this, like we said this last year. Oh, if you would have, went back into spring training and signed up for a 42-24 start, like you would have been happy. Yeah, we would have been. Anybody would have been. Like this team is playing good baseball.
Yeah.
They've dropped games that they should have won. So you could make the argument that they could be 5 games better than what they are right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that I'm gonna run away with the positives of this team because let's be honest, they still have a lot of areas of improvement. The fact that they're 42-24, given the runners in scoring position struggles that they've had to endure already, is remarkable within itself. Because the Braves are going, under the same thing. They're enduring that same thing. The Dodgers, for crying out loud, they're enduring a brutal stretch right now of not hitting with runners in scoring position. I paid attention to 2 Dodgers games this weekend where their announcers were calling out that that lineup, I should say, is not producing with runners in scoring position. And so good teams find ways to win regardless. And I think
Yep.
that this pitching has been up to the task. And I think that the offense genuinely has been up to the task here as of recent as well. So uh, I like what the Mets are doing. There's a lot of outside noise, right? Nothing to do with the Mets per se. And it's just funny that the other side of town with the Yankees needs to continuously involve the Mets into something like that. Why are they not worried about what they're doing? It it's curious, isn't it, Rob? It's curious. It's pretty curious.
It's always curious. And again, you just said it. When if we would have told you in the beginning of the year, 42-24, the first 66 games of the season, especially with the pitching staff going into the season, nobody ever thought they were going to be this good. We thought the bullpen was going to be very good, but never in my wildest dreams the starting pitcher would be this good. Now you were confident that they would be good, but I don't even think you were confident enough to say they were this good. Like that's like
Yeah.
this is insane right now, and a lot has to do with the pitching and why we have this record. But I'm going to give a little credit to the offense because even when the pitching kept these games close, it was still up to certain guys, no matter who they were in the lineup. It was mostly sometimes bottom of the order, top of the order, middle of the order. They found a way, the pitching, to keep the game close, and the big hits late in games, in close games. You talked about it earlier. This is what they have done while struggling, while being no better than 27th ranked in baseball with runners in scoring position. Like that stat should make you a bad team. Like let's be quite honest about that. You don't get a look at the teams that have terrible numbers with runners in scoring position. They're all bottom of the barrel teams. The Mets are not, and that's why every Met fan should be so excited. We're 18 games over 500, leading the division by 4.5 games, and we're still not doing things offensively the way we all expected to. We still think they didn't even reach the apex yet of their offense, and they're 18 games over 500. If they ever get to that point, and again, there's some signs of it's getting there, but we don't know if they're ever going to hit their apex. We all assume they will because all you need is 3 guys in this lineup at the top of the order to go at the same time, and then they're in trouble, and then everybody's in trouble. So they haven't hit the apex yet. 18 games over 500, 4.5 division lead, and they just look like they're playing loose, right? A bad loss doesn't bother them. They go into the next game and they take care of business. This is the beauty of this team right now, and you talked about it as well. Sean Manaea hasn't thrown a pitch this year. Montas hasn't thrown a pitch this year, and it's still as good as I think anybody could have expected when it comes to record. we were talking about. I was talking about being 5 to 8, 7 to 10 games over 500 going into June, and they well surpassed that in June. While the hardest schedule is coming, and in June and July. So it's just amazing. It really is, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I expected this rotation to be solid, right? To hold things down at least until the deadline. But I didn't expect this whatsoever. I didn't expect this version of this rotation to be this good. And that's a testament to a lot of things, the pitching lab, whatever you want to say. But yeah, especially with this offense not holding true to what they could be as a ceiling, right? In terms of the ceiling, this is absolutely phenomenal. This is absolutely phenomenal. So I'm again, I'll repeat myself 1,000 times on this stream, perhaps, and maybe in the future streams, is that I'm ecstatic with where the Mets are right now. And I think that as a fan of the Mets, like obviously understanding that they still have weaknesses, they still have things that they need to shore up. Like we're not going to sit here and tell you that they're a perfect team, but even given the circumstances, yeah, I'll take what was that 18 games over 500. I'll take that all day long, Rob, all day long. It's a
Yeah,
really good sight to see. And then individually too, offensively, right? We're talking about the collective offensive unit, right? We're talking about a guy like Jeff McNeil, who's looks like he's coming around, right? He looks comfortable. A guy like Ronnie Mauricio, who just got brought up recently as well, he looks a little bit more comfortable after that 0 for 8, 0 for 9 stretch that he, had in the first couple of games. So getting guys that uh I think McNeil is definitely going to be here for the long run. We don't know about Mauricio, but like getting guys comfortable that didn't look comfortable at the start is very important for this team. I still think Francisco Alvarez is a very big glue guy because he hasn't looked comfortable for a while now, right? But he's going to be a part of this team for the foreseeable future, not only organizationally over the next few years, but like I'm talking about this season, right? With Luis
yeah,
Torrens, etc. Like we need his bat to get going. And just all across the board. Juan Soto specifically though, especially with how he started, especially with how a lot of fans see the overall statistics and are like, okay, if you're not a fan of the Mets, if you don't watch them on a regular basis, of course, you're going to look at Juan Soto's average. You're going to look at his OPS just hovering around 800. You're going to be like, oh, this guy's not living up to the potential. This guy just got on base 6 times today. This guy just got on base 6 times today. What more do you want from the guy? And he's been continuously doing that, by the way, whether it's via a hit, whether it's via the walk, he's getting on base. And so I think that that's really exactly what we want to see. And then let's just be honest. Pete Alonso's carrying this offense. Pete
oh yeah,
Alonso's carrying
yep,
this offense. What is
absolutely.
it? 17 home runs now. He just tied David Wright's franchise record, right? He didn't overtake it. He tied it, if I'm not mistaken, with the home run today.
I think he
I think he
surpassed.
tied it. Oh, he
Oh,
surpassed it?
he surpassed it. I believe he surpassed it. Yeah,
Oh, he
David Wright
surpassed it.
put
Okay, I
something out
thought he
on
tied
X
it.
today.
Okay, okay,
And,
okay, okay.
yeah,
But even regardless, like 17 home runs, 61 RBIs now. This guy's playing phenomenally. That's an all-time Met we're talking about. That's an all-time Met. I love it. I love it, Rob. And I think
on
that
top.
again, this go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go, go, go.
No, I'm just saying like this guy is an all-time Met already, but you know, even still, this offense has clearly, up until this point, generally speaking, has been carried by Pete Alonso.
Yeah,
Imagine if we get a couple of other guys going. Imagine if Brandon Nimmo turns things around. Francisco Lindor clearly has also been, having his way so far this season. Him continuing that, but getting another guy that's really hot in like, Jeff McNeil getting hot with the bat. You know what I mean? Getting another guy going in this offense to swing a hot bat alongside Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor. Like it's gonna mean the world for this offense.
yeah.
So I think that the one still underlying factor is, hitting with runners in scoring position, but I just look at this offense in its totality, and I'm like, I see signs of them turning it around, which is very important. I love that.
Yeah, and I think they said it on the broadcast that, or somebody brought it up on X. I forgot which one it was. That the most RBIs in a month was Gary Carter with 34. Pete Alonso is on pace for 61 this month. Now, will he cool off this month? Who knows? Like he might actually have the all-time Mets record in RBIs in a month by basically the middle of this month if he continues this pace. Like that's how good he's been in the first week of June. And he had I would say a little bit of an average May, right? A amazing hot April, an average May, which is fine. You're gonna have those type of months. And now we starting off the month of June red hot in the first week of June. And it's a great sign. He has been carrying his team. And it's nice to see, if a couple of guys come along and help him out. I mean, it's going to be so much more, even more fun. It's already fun watching his team, right? It's nice to be a Mets fan, turning on the TV and feeling confident they're going to win no matter who they play. Obviously during the games, during the game you're watching, you're gonna get frustrated. Oh, they didn't get this hit and run in scoring position. Look at that bad pitch, right? Like McGill today, first inning, throwing fastballs, locating, throwing perfect. He threw, I think, 11 out of 13 pitches were fastballs in the first inning. The second inning, it was all breaking balls. And obviously, Met fans are talking about that. It was frustrating. Like, you just dominated with fastballs in the first inning. Why go away from that in the second inning and throw predominantly change-ups and breaking ball and off-speed pitches? It just didn't make sense. And, yeah, you're going to get frustrated in games, but knowing that you can turn on the TV ready for a Mets game at 7 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever time it is, and be confident that, you know what, they're going to win this game. Like, is there a game you go into now as a Met fan and say, we're going to lose? Right? Sometimes you might not feel great about a pitching matchup, but you just feel like they're going to find a way to win a ball game. And that's rare for us. That's very rare for us. And it's happening right now. And it's this team that's doing it.
Can I say something on that? Because that's a funny thing that you just brought up. My buddy, actually, who follows the Rockies, like coincidentally, he's like he's a sports better, right? Like I don't sports bet, but like he does. And he's like, "What do you think about the Mets versus Rockies today?" I was just like, Tyler McGill's on the mound. The Mets have had a little bit of a tough time this season, like sweeping, series that they should sweep. Like maybe this is a game that the Rockies take. I don't know. Like I was just like telling him that. I was like, in good faith too. I was like really saying like Tyler McGill's on the mound, whatever. And then I started to say, I'm like, maybe not. Maybe that's not a good bet. Maybe that's not a good bet. He did it anyways. Unfortunately, Unfortunately for him, he did it anyways. But I'm like, yeah, the Mets are like on a different level right now, Rob. Like they're on a different level. So you know what? If people are asking me for like advice, I'm going to just be like, I don't know at this point because like the Mets just seem, and we always talk about this inferior competition. They play down to the competition. The last two series against the Rockies, like that's been them. Good teams could always play down to competition. And it seems like the Mets do so, but like I've been really, and that's the underrated aspect of this series and the last series that they played against the Rockies is that they haven't played down to the competition, which is a really good sign. It's a really good sign. And by the way, I mean, it's no small feat, by the way, at Coors Field to pitch well. You know what I mean? Even Clay Holmes was like, he had a fantastic outing, but even he was just like, yeah, it feels different pitching in this ballpark, and it feels like you are a little bit more gassed more quickly than you would in a different ballpark. And so the fact that we were able to get these performances from, McGill, Clay Holmes, Kodai Senga is phenomenal. And I think that, again, just singing the praises of the Mets outside of the offense, just the pitching side of things is like, really good things to see. Really good things to see, and really good things to continue to build off of because um you see rotations around this league, right? I mean, um, I have a couple of friends that are Orioles fans, and the Orioles are a really good team. I feel like they have really good talent, right? But they've never prioritized their pitching. And prioritizing pitching, by the way, and this is a little bit of a rant about David Stearns about how he's just like such a guru. It's like you don't really need to sign these big name free agents to be headliners of your rotation all the time. You can trade for one, and that's fine. You can figure out the contract later, but it's like, I think the Diamondbacks are saying the same thing about, it's a different situation. You're always going to sign Corbin Burns if he's available on the market. We both wanted Corbin Burns, but look how that has ended up too with his season-ending Tommy John surgery. You know what I mean? He's still going to be available for them. He signed a 6-year contract. He's still going to be, one of the better pitchers in the league when he is recovered from that surgery. But it's like, it just makes me think, and it makes me grateful to have a guy like David Stearns headlining this front office and doing things in such a methodical manner and not just throwing money at the first guy he sees. And I'm not talking about just pitching at this point. I'm talking about pitching and offense, right? Because it just seems like David Stearns has been pressing all the right buttons in a row to
Yeah.
build this team, depth wise and all. It's really good to see. And so like I always take a step back, right? From the performance, the on-field performance aside, I always take a step back and I'm like, this team is constructed by David Stearns and he knows what he's doing. And like Juan is saying in the chat, Griffin Canning is a testament to that construction.
Yeah.
I didn't like nobody cared for Griffin Canning in this fan base where like I said he can
We didn't
have
want
a
him in the
role
rotation.
as a long he can have a role as a long reliever. That's fine. He could probably make a contribution as a long reliever and that's fine. I was open to that. You know what I mean? But as a starter to do what he's doing this season,
Yeah, it's amazing.
that's it's
Like
it's it's
he,
it's
he,
it's
he
not amazing, Rob. It's like it's unspeakable at this
it is.
point. It's
It is
unspeakable.
like Griffin Kennedy has never been good in his career. Like this isn't a situation where it's Luis Severino where he was good in years back and they're just trying to find it because he has the stuff and the talent. Griffin Kennedy has not been a good pitcher, not a great pitcher. He hasn't been a good pitcher in his career, and he's one of the better pitchers in baseball just by pure numbers. It is amazing for $4.5 million. It's a complete steal, and it's not even just that. It's Clay Holmes becoming a starter as a reliever, like all of this stuff, and it doesn't make sense. And this is only year 2 of David Stearns, by the way. Only year 2. And he's kind of put his finger on this team this year. Last year was both guys that he basically obtained by becoming the president of baseball ops. There wasn't much he can do. He did a little bit in the offseason, but it was still kind of a touchy-feely concept because remember, it was supposed to be a rebuild year, right? It was supposed to be
Sean Manaea, I mean, that's
yeah,
him though.
yeah. It was supposed to be last year. It was supposed to be an evaluation year of the prospects, and let's see what happens at the deadline because we were talking about in the beginning of the year trading Pete Alonso, trading a lot of our veterans just to get pieces back, and they didn't do that because they played extremely well from June on. Like it is amazing in 2 years what David Stearns has done along with the pitching lab. Because again, this isn't the pitching lab of David Stearns. This is Steve Cohen putting the money in those systems, in his technology that wasn't there before when the Wilpons took over. And obviously that lab takes years to develop and years to get better. And Stearns, with his knowledge of knowing that I'm not going to spend that much on pitching, but I'm going to put it into the bats. I'm going to put it into the offense, the bullpen for that matter. Even though he didn't spend a lot of money on the bullpen, he just gets the right guys and then believes in the guy, saying that if you throw, and again, it's more the pitching lab than David Stearns telling him this, but they look at he finds the right talent, and this is the scouts all over the country, that the major league scouts, the minor league scouts, the international scouts, all of these scouts that are under David Stearns. It's just amazing what Steve Cohen put as a a nest of good people around him, because he talked about this when he took over the team. He says it's not just about owning the team and spending money. Everybody can you can spend money if you want to, but it's not always going to be good money, and it's money's well spent. It is having the right people around you that can put a team together and make the right decisions. And Steve Cohen has done that with David Stearns. David Stearns has done that with the guys around him, and then the guys around him, along with David Stearns, has the coaching staff to work around the players. And it's all a tree. It's a pyramid effect, and that's how it's working, and it's been quite amazing.
Think about where we were at after that 2023 season
Miserable.
as a fan base, but also just like talking about this team on this channel with both of our channels. Like, think about where we were at and how lowly we were, right? 2022, you come off of a really good season. And then 2023, it's just like you get Verlander. Everyone thinks as like the Mets as contenders, and it's just like it goes to shit. And so then you bring in David Stearns. He doesn't have the flashiest of off seasons, and I don't think he even had the flashiest of off seasons this last go around, minus like Juan Soto and bringing back Pete Alonso, et cetera, whatever. But it's like this organization from top to bottom has just like changed with the like snap of a finger, like that. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
There's more work to do. Like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Like, there's more work to do, of course. And I see, I think I forgot who said in the chat here. Dolo is saying the only critique from the Stearns perspective is not letting go of prospects. I'm telling you this right now. Like,
We'll see.
I told you this. I told you this in the off season, Rob. I know that you disagreed with me.
We argued about this for a while.
We've argued about this for a while, but it's like with the way things are going right now, he's in the position to not think twice about letting go of a prospect and making this team.
It's easy. It makes it easier for sure.
It makes it so much easier for him. This start right now makes it so much easier for him to get to the deadline and be like, this is a clear need for this team. I'm not going to think twice about letting go of this prospect that this team is asking for.
Yep.
And so that's why even before the season started, I said, I have confidence that maybe, like, I know David Stearns probably is not going to do this in the offseason, but when it comes mid-season, if there's a discrepancy about a prospect or two here and there, about a trade that can really help the Mets at the deadline, I think he'll make it.
Yeah.
And this is still speculation at the end of the day. He can go out there and not make it, and I can be wrong. But I think that a 42-24 start, if things continue this way on this path, it makes his decision that much easier to be like, why do I need to prospect hug at this point? Let's just go out there, do the thing, because we are one of the better teams in the league, the National League, that is much better than the American League, by the way. And we have a real shot. Took a season series already from the Dodgers. I know everything, like they're not fully healthy pitching wise, etc. But it's like, let's go make this team a true championship caliber team. And David Stearns. David Stearns probably is not going to trade for a guy that only has a expiring contract. If he trades for a guy, historically speaking, in his Mets tenure, he's going to trade for a guy that has, let's say, another year under his contract outside of this season, outside the rest of this season. But yeah, man, I think that, I don't know about you. I can't speak for you, Rob, but like the guy that's at the helm right now, that's like fully making the decisions, the ins and outs of this team. I trusted him before when he was first appointed to the position. I trust him now because this team is night and day different, in a night and day different position than they were at 2 years ago when we were selling off prospects, or not selling off prospects, but selling off players for the accumulation of prospects under a guy like Billy Epler. It's night and day different.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's why, there's been rumblings, you saw John Heyman and a couple other reports about the Mets might be interested if the Red Sox trade Durant, right? All the years of control he's got. He's going to take an arm and a leg to get, but that's a guy that Stearns would go after because of what you just said. he's not willing. He's willing to give up the prospects, but he also doesn't want to do it for just a rental. Now, I think if push comes to shove, he might do that with a rental if need be. If the Mets really are desperate for a type of player, but if the Mets do want to go get a center fielder, yeah, Cedric Mullins is probably going to be out there too, who's going to be a free agent after this year. But that might be a guy you might not have to give up a lot of at all. Maybe top 20, top 10, top 15 prospect. But Durant is the type of guy that Stearns would love to get, depending on how much it's going to cost. So you're right. Now, again, I want to see him do it before I get excited, because the trade deadline is going to come up really quickly. We all know this, right?
We're making you a little. It's. I could see the excitement in your voice, though, Rob.
I am, because you know what? Because this is a very good team. There's not a lot of holes. Let's be honest. There's not a lot of holes at this point. Now, I still think the pitching is going to take a step back, and I'm not going to be as great as they've been. I think they're still going to be very good. I don't know if they're going to be as great as they've been for a long period of the most, if not all, the season. So I don't think they're going to need major moves, to be quite honest with you. Like, if you're running 18 to 20 something games over 500 the rest of the year, there's not many holes on your team. Now, maybe you want to get a bullpen on to help out the bullpen a little bit. If there's a deal out there for a center fielder, because I think that's probably the one hole that you can really talk about on this team, because Tyron Taylor has been solid, but he is a fourth outfielder. He's a guy that, plays better and will help the team more as a fourth outfielder and playing all positions of the outfield, coming up in pinch hit appearances in clutch situations. But he's not a star. He can be a starter, if you're a well-rounded team, which the Mets are. So it's not a complete necessity to need a center fielder. But if it gets to the point where it's like, wow, center field's kind of a hole for us and it's not really doing much for us, yeah, you can look at Mullins, you can look at Durant, you can look at other, Luis Robert as well. There's options out there. So I think David Stearns is at a point right now where I think that he's willing to give up, because you see the logjam now. You can't play all these guys that you currently have up that we're talking about in top prospects that we're talking about, with Vientos, with Beatty, with Acuna, with Mauricio. There's no room for these guys. And with McNeil playing well, there's not room for these guys. So you can't just leave them in the minors and let them die. You got to use some of these as assets to get something to help this team for the present and the future. And that's where I think, and I'm excited because I didn't expect this team to be this good, to be quite honest with you. And I thought we were going to need top pitching at the deadline. I wasn't sure about the overall lineup. I felt like the top four was going to be really good, but I still think there was going to be, holes that we were going to talk about. And, you can always use a bullpen piece. So I'm excited because I think Stearns is kind of in a perfect spot, right? He might make little moves to upgrade this team and people will be happy, including myself, but he can make that one big move to make us even that much better. And I'm hoping he does that. But am I going to go crazy about it? Probably not, because this team is better than I expected. And that's the big difference.
I look at like the one thing for me that I always look at with David Stearns, especially going back until like last trade deadline, is the move for Brazaban.
Yeah.
Right. Like, how many people were writing Oscar Brazaban off in the second half after he had a tremendous half in the first half of the season for the Marlins, and he shat the bed pretty much in the second half for the Mets, right? And how well has Oscar Brazaban pitched for the Mets this season? I mean, he's been a staple in this bullpen. So it really isn't always the flashy move, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Paul Blackburn, same thing. I know that he only, has appeared a handful of times so far this season, but that was another trade deadline acquisition last season for the Mets. Blackburn, I guess, produced a little bit more than Brazaban for, second half Mets last season. But both these guys are going to be key contributors for the Mets this season. So, I agree with you. It's like David Stearns has the option. He has the option. He could go out there and make a flashy move if he wants to. I don't think he's going to make the flashy move for a pitcher, to be honest with you. I
I
think
don't think
he's
the
going to make a flashy move for like a center fielder, like you said,
Yeah,
with Durant, who has another
it's safer
year,
with a
whatever.
position player.
Right?
To be honest.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, but the fact that we're talking about options here at the deadline, like it makes sense to me, and that's exactly the position that a front office guy, wants to be in and wants to make. So, um, we got to let him handle that at this point. And I think the team's going to let him handle that, and they're just going to, keep going about their business. But, you know, at the end of the day, man, like what we saw against the Rockies, like to bring it back to this series, I mean, really good things to see. I mean, Jeff McNeil is like, I want to go back to Jeff McNeil because he's just been getting on base, man. It doesn't matter whether he's hitting a like 7-hole, 8-hole, 5-hole as of recent. He's getting on base, whether it's via a hit or whether it's via a walk. It's
Yeah,
it's really good to see. It's really
he's been
refreshing to
solid.
see. He seems like locked in, and it's awesome. Um, but yeah, Rob, like I think a lot of people in this fan base, including myself, including you, like we're vibrant on this stream right now. How can you not be about this team? Like, how can you not talk highly of this team? So yeah, we'll
Right?
see what happens. But the trade deadline is still another month and a half away. A lot of things can happen between now and then. But like, I see Game is saying that I'm on the David Stearns bandwagon here. How can you not be?
Yeah,
Like what genuinely, what has he done as president of baseball operations so far? Minus maybe not selling the farm for Garrett Crochet in this offseason to make you think that this guy doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. Like
I agree.
what else? Like what else would you have in hindsight? You can use hindsight too, because hindsight, David Stearns looks like a genius right now. Whether you use it in the present tense when it was happening or in hindsight, he looks like a genius right now.
Yeah,
So besides not going full out for Garrett Crochet like the Red Sox did, he looks like a genius. So yeah, I'm gonna say this right now, Game. I am a bandwagon for David Stearns. Let's see what he does at a trade deadline. We'll see very soon. And I'm hoping if history repeats itself, I'm hoping that I'm right. That's it. That's all I'll say.
yeah, and I've critiqued David Stearns, right? I have been upset at David Stearns not go, look. We talked about it during the offseason, right? You wanted Max Fried, I wanted Corbin Burns, right? Max Fried would have looked like a good signing. I don't know how, 6 years from now, but it looks like a good signing right now, right? Corbin Burns would have been a disaster, him getting hurt. Now again, you can never predict, right? Does it mean that he would have got hurt with the Mets? Who the hell knows, right? Everybody's arm is a rubber band until it rips, right? It could be anybody. So I was a little confused because obviously Juan Soto wasn't David Stearns at all. It was Steve Cohen. We know that. But it's hard to kill or even not get on the bandwagon of David Stearns when he's doing what he's doing. And it's not about the offense, right? Nimmo's been here forever. Alonso's been here forever. Lindor has been here since 2001. Like, a lot of these guys have been here. These aren't Stearns guys per se. He's put other guys here. He's giving kids an opportunity that they never got before with the Wilpons, with Buck Showalter, with Billy Epler, right? He's giving the kids a chance. And Vientos would have never got that opportunity if it wasn't for David Stearns last year. And I think if Billy Epler was still around, it might have not never happened. We would have still been going with veterans. The Jose Iglesias, you think that there would have been a Billy Epler signing? No. It's, Luis Torrens, those little signings. Like, it's hard to kill or even not jump on the bandwagon with David Stearns. Now, if there's a need at the deadline that is a glaring need, an obvious move that they need to make, if he doesn't do that, I'm going to be extremely upset. But I don't see him not doing it at this point. There's nothing else to prove in your system and to evaluate in your system anymore. The guys that are ready to go are either have been up here contributing or on the verge of contributing in like guys like, Ronnie Mauricio, who's now here. That was the only other guy we were waiting for the most part. Everybody else is probably not really going to be here at all this year with all the log jams that we have all over the field. So he has an opportunity here where the evaluation period is over. Like we're not talking about guys that we just drafted, in the last draft. Even though Carson Benj is a guy that could be trade bait. It's just something that David Stearns, I feel like, is in such a great spot because of the fact that the guys that he brought here, even Acuna, who I still think needs a lot of work, still contribute to this team. Mauricio contributed all right away. Beatty has figured things out. Vientos is hurt, but I feel like Vientos is still going to be a very good player. The evaluation's over. There's really not a lot of places you can put a lot of guys anymore. And I think he will make the move. If it's a necessary move, if it's a glaring need, he will go get it. And I'm confident in saying that for somebody who's been a criticized Stearns for 2 seasons, to be quite honest.
I have a question for you personally, Rob.
Trade them all. No, I'm sorry. Good.
Well, this is kind of feeds into that philosophy, I guess. Brett Beatty really did catch a hot streak. I mean, he really turned it around at this point. Like he has been doing really well. It's I guess recently he's been on a little bit of a downturn, but like he really turned it around, right? When we were having the conversations this offseason about Brett Beatty, it's like surefire, like get what value you can get from Brett Beatty because he's not going to be part of this team moving forward. What do you think about the Mets shopping Brett Beatty this offseason, or not this offseason, but this trade deadline? Do you think it's going to actually happen, or do you think they're not so willing at this point to let go of a guy like that?
Well, luckily with the news from Vientos where it's not that serious, let's say he's back in the middle of the month, this month. If Vientos starts hitting, I think Beatty's expendable, to be quite honest with you. If Vientos has shown what he was doing last year, when he comes back, then I'm not worried about worrying about what we do. Again, I told you this. As long as we're covered at the major league level, where we need to be covered at, let's say third base, like there's so many options that you could use at third base. What about Ronnie Mauricio? You know what I'm saying? So, I think Brett Beatty can be expendable. And I'm sorry, if you're going to stop a trade because you didn't want to include Brett Beatty, I mean, Steve Cohen's got to take David Stearns into his office, like, and give him a stern warning. Like, it's just, yeah, I would have to do it. Like, it depends on who it is, though. Like, I'm not, if you're trying to get a decent reliever and somehow you're going to trade Beatty for that, like, it needs to be like a Cedric Mullins. It needs to be a Durant, maybe even a Luis Robert, like something like that, or even a starter, a really good starter if you need it. I just think that, yeah, I probably would, and I love Brett Beatty. Like I've been on the Brett Beatty bandwagon for a while. I've said that. I'm still on that bandwagon, but I would have to do that. And this is somebody who actually likes Brett Beatty, so I would have to do it. But it really depends on who it is. Like if you give me a name, I'd be like yes or no.
Yeah. I also agree with you with the first half of your statement in terms of what you said about Mauricio, because like I think Mauricio could be a very viable option. I think at this point, Beatty has. I mean, I think it's not like it's obvious that Brett Beatty has a lot more trade value than a guy like Ron Mauricio. But like Ron Mauricio, if he could play third base, because like I'm not sold on Vientos' defense at third base. I don't think a
Sure.
lot of Mets are, you know what I mean? So like you need to have that like backup option. And at this point, it's been Beatty and Mauricio being that backup option defensively for a guy like Mark Vientos, like when he comes back. So I think that Brett Beatty would probably be I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say he's gonna be the first one to go in that scenario. But what I will say is that having Ronnie Mauricio and getting him these reps early on this season, I know this is very premature talk of deadline talk that we're talking about right now. It's good to see that Ron Mauricio is making an everyday contribution
Right.
in the first couple of games of the season to make that be a possibility. Because again, I'm not going to waver off of this. I'm not going to get off of this. Like I do see Mark Vientos as a potential option for an everyday DH spot. I'm not locked into Mark Vientos playing third base every day.
I
because
agree.
he has not shown the capability of him playing a competent third base every single day. So if Ryan Mauricio can do that, Brett Beatty has, for the most part, done that. I'd welcome that. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting revolving door that we're working with here, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and they talked about it on the broadcast that you know that there's been talk. Well, there's been a noise that Ronnie Mauricio is much more comfortable at third base than second base, and that's been obvious since they've been playing him at third more. So that's another reason why where Beatty could be expendable. Or let's be
He's
honest,
got the arm. He's got the arm too.
maybe even Vientos is expendable. I know we're only talking about Beatty, but Vientos might be too. I know that might scare some people off, but Ronnie Mauricio is the key here because I said this many times. It didn't take long. It took an injury to get Ronnie Mauricio up here after what 9 games in the minors or in AAA when they were probably going to leave him down there for another week or two. Like they couldn't wait for the opportunity to call up Ronnie Mauricio. They like we were sleeping before the Vientos injury even got known. Mauricio was on the plane out to LA. Like that. That's how badly they wanted Mauricio on this team. So, we only a few short years ago, last year, he was going to be the starting third baseman. Like we all, it's easy to forget before Beatty, before Vientos, it was Ronnie Mauricio's job. They were giving it to him. That's what he proved in the little bit he played in 2023. That's how confident they are in him. They believe he's a 5-tool player, that he can be a superstar. They believe that. There's no doubt in my mind. They would trade Vientos, Beatty, and Acuna all in one package just to make sure they don't get rid of Mauricio. Like that's how important Mauricio is to this front office and to this team, the way they're thinking. So, it's gonna be amazing to think about because I don't always like trading from the major league roster to get better to put on the major league roster. But when you got these options that you can go any combination here, because nothing should stop you from getting the guy you want at the deadline. And yeah, Chris, I know we're far away from the deadline, like you said, but when you're winning, when you're this good, you have to think down the road because we're not expected to be a 500 team anymore. There's a new trajectory here, right? We're going up. We're ascending. That's what we're doing right now. Usually we're descending. We're ascending right now. And that's why we're talking about that because it matters. We're talking like Dodger fans now. We're talking like Yankee fans now because we know we're good. There was too much in between. Even in 2022 when they were very good, there was still this in between. Well, I don't know if we want to give up this. There's evaluation. No, you don't hear the Yankees talk about that. The Dodgers talk about, the Phillies talk about that. The Braves talk about that. It is, we know we're going to be good. We're talking in May and June about the deadline, 2 months, almost less than 2 months from now. Like that is different from what we've talked from years past, and that's why everybody's bringing it up. That's why these rumors are coming out from John Heyman and national reporters about the Mets possibly going after guys. You know why? Because organizations are talking about that. Those executives that don't put their names out there that give rumors to these national reporters because it's talked about in that circle. And that is something that's very new to Mets fans. And it's a beautiful thing to have and to talk about because we're going to be talking about this every week, every series recap show, every pregame, every postgame, every God knows what other show we all do. That's going to be the topic of conversation at some point in the show because we're that good that we're worried about the trade deadline 2 months out. That's the beautiful part about what the Mets put themselves in.
Agreed, 100%, 100%. And you got really, I mean, you can make the case for second base for Mauricio and Brett Beatty, but like, I don't really think so in terms of the longevity aspect, especially with Jeff McNeil a part of this roster at this time. So you have three guys that are essentially vying for reps almost every day at the third base position. I mean, there's got to be an odd man out organizationally. You know what I mean? And so it's a good problem to have, Rob. I'll say that. I think that's what you're trying to get at as well. And
Yeah.
the way that the Mets have been going right now, especially with the record, especially with the way they've been looking, it's like it's a good problem to have. Not only for us as a fan base that gets to come up on here on the mic and in the chat and sit and talk about this team, but also David Stearns. I mean, uh, the opportunities are endless, is what I'll say. David Stearns has a really unique opportunity this deadline to showcase exactly the plans that he has for his organization moving forward, especially for this year. So I'm excited. The Mets are playing good baseball. I think that we've gone, a little bit carried away with some of the deadline talk, but like you said, it's going to be necessary, and we're going to be doing this, especially over the next month and a half until the deadline actually hits, because this is the way that the Mets are set up. Like, it's not like a fringe wild card team at this point. It's like we're talking about a division and potentially putting this team over the top to being a World Series team. So like, let's do it, man. I'm excited. Like, this makes me excited. If this type of thing doesn't make you excited as a Mets fan, then you love mediocrity. I'll say that. I'll say that. As a Mets fan, I'll say this. This type, like, embrace this, Mets fans. Embrace this. With as much mediocrity as we've had to endure in our lifetimes, especially my lifetime, if your age aligns, as much as mediocrity as we've had to endure, embrace this. This is like unique. This is good. These are good problems to have and to speak about. So yeah, that's all I'll say.
Yeah.
And I know that's a little bit of that's too positive for some people, because a lot of people like still want to be like, oh, what's the next worst thing that's gonna happen to this organization? It's fine. Good things happen to good organizations, man. I think the Mets are a really good organization with the guys that are leading this organization right now. So let's do it. I love it.
Absolutely.
And by the way, great sweep, 4.5 game lead. Next two series, Nationals, Rays. Go get the job done. I don't know what else to say anymore. There's no team in this league that phases me. There's no
Nope.
team in
I
this
agree.
league that scares me. There's none. There's none that should at
I
all.
agree. I agree. So the Mets are 42-24, high mark of the season, 18 games over 500, 8-2 in their last 10, 4.5 game lead in the division. They got a homestand. They've dominated at home, 6-game homestand with the Nationals and the Rays. Thank you for tuning in to this Mets series recap right here on the channels and on X. We'll see you next time, guys. It's an off day tomorrow, so put your feet up, relax, have a beer, and enjoy the 18 games over 500 record, guys. Have a good night, and let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.